Welcome, welcome, and welcome again to this edition of Table Talk at the House of Bread. My name is Reverend Sean Tripline, and we are live from the campus of Bethlehem Baptist Church, and I am so excited to have you join us for this wonderful hour of dialogue that we do every Thursday at 12 noon. The Lord has blessed us to engage some incredible leaders, some incredible thinkers, some incredible service leaders in our community. And I am so glad today that we have none other than Sister Sasha Capers here live in the studio. And she is a member of our church. She's grown up here at Bethlehem and is a part of a wonderful family. And we're grateful to God that with all of her accomplishments, with all that the Lord has allowed her to see and do in her short young years, that she has taken time to be with us for this very important conversation. I'm going to give a few words from her biography, and then I will pass this off to Pastor Kwan so that he can open us up in the way that he sees fit. Sasha Gabrielle Capers is daughter of proud parents Dana and William Capers Jr. and the amazing sister to Alexis Lynn and William Capers III, also known as Tripp. Sasha and her siblings were born and raised in Bluebell. She is a student at the University of Pennsylvania. Her sister just graduated in the last week from Spelman College down in Atlanta, and William attends Germantown Academy. Sasha also graduated from Germantown Academy as a McNeil Patriot Scholar on the High Honors Roll in 2020. She attended that academy from daycare and became an active member of the community. Her involvements included being the prefect of the Kershaw House, serving on the diversity board for the Black Student Union as a representative for that organization, also writing for the school newspaper. She also served as a student government representative, a Patriot ambassador, and a math and science tutor. She was on the soccer team and track for 4 years and also the captain of the volleyball team. She excels in her school environment and is a part of, or was a part of, the National Chinese Honor Society, where she won the Oral Proficiency First Place Winner Award for Montgomery County, and that is incredible. She's now attending the University of Pennsylvania with a major in East Asian Studies and Civilization with a minor in biology on a pre-med track. Her ultimate career goal is to merge her passion for Chinese and East Asian cultures with her interest in medicine to work in the medical field in immigrant Chinese-speaking communities. She has been an active member of Jack and Jill, Montgomery, PA chapter. She served as a secretary. She served as president and chair of multiple committees and did a lot of great work with them as well, winning scholarships and awards for her involvements with Jack and Jill. She also was involved in Stop Hunger Now, and that organization is focused on packaging meals for third world countries. As a member of Bethlehem, Sasha also volunteered in Operation Christmas and held with mentorship programs in our community as well. She has been fascinated by different cultures as long as she can remember. She's been learning Mandarin Chinese since the 5th grade and has had the opportunity to travel abroad, fully immersing herself in those cultures. For 2 weeks, she explored Xi'an, Beijing, and Shanghai. I hope I pronounced those correctly. And over the summer, Sasha has attended many different camps, including the Georgetown Elite Soccer Summer Session, MIT Real Estate Experience, and a social justice class at the George Washington University. She enjoys spending time with her family and friends. She is currently involved in a book club with her friends where they read a book every month and then review it. And over the weekend, Sasha and her friends often take the train into Philadelphia to try new restaurants, but she's been in Philadelphia, so I'd like to hear the update for that. With her family, she enjoys spending time with her sister and her brother as well. So we're just grateful to God. There's a lot here to talk about. She is such an accomplished, such a brilliant, but humble individual, and we are so grateful to God that she is a part of our community, and we look forward to engaging her for this time. Before I pass this off to Pastor Kwan, I want to say to you, if you have any questions at all for Sasha or any questions for this panel, as we open up the dialogue, please know that you can send your comments in. We are live. This is happening in real time. There are no edits. So you can send your comments in and let us know how you're reflecting upon this conversation. We would love to include you in this dialogue. Thank you. Pastor.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us pray. Gracious and glorious God, we are grateful for this opportunity during this noonday hour to gather, table talk at the house of bread. We're grateful, oh God, for this gifted young lady, Sasha, who has come today to share with us her journey. We pray, oh God, you bless this conversation. And we pray, oh God, when we leave here, we will know that the God we serve is great, glorious, and mighty. In the wonderful, marvelous, incredible name of Jesus Christ do we pray. Amen. I am speechless. And you just confirmed to me what God has laid in my heart, that we as an African-American congregation have embraced inclusion and diversity. And that as I listened to your bio by Reverend Triplin, it's just another indication of what God is doing. Your love for people of all cultures, your travel to China and other places, particularly as we see so much hate regarding our, not only African Americans, but Asians and other minorities. So I thank God for your heart. I mean that from the depths of my heart. And I'm just amazed at what you have accomplished at an early age. There's no telling what the Lord has in store for you. And there's a word we say, an acronym, wow, wonderful opportunities waiting. And you've taken advantage of all those opportunities you've had, and you've excelled in so many ways. Not only are your family and your parents proud, but I can say here at Bethlehem that we're proud of all the accomplishments you are making. And I'm just grateful to God that you represent the best of all of our students. We are blessed to have so many students here in this church like yourself who are striving for excellence academically, socially, and spiritually. And I am grateful for Education Scholarship Ministry led by Michelle Turner and others who place youth in the hearts of their hearts. And so just tell us a little about how you have begun this journey and how you have become so committed to bring about diversity in your own walk of life.
So my current major at the University of Pennsylvania is East Asian Languages and Civilizations with a concentration in Chinese. So that entails that I currently am learning Chinese and probably will become fluent by the end of my junior year. And along with that, I learn Japanese and Korean. So starting next semester, I start taking Japanese and Korean classes along with my pre-med requisites. I got into this major because I fell in love with the language of Chinese and the culture of China in the 5th grade. It really started very early. I always just wanted to go there, wanted to live there for a while now. I got to go my junior year for about 3 weeks, and it just made me want to accelerate there and get to that path. So I definitely do love that culture, and I love learning about that culture. And my main goal is just to become fluent as fast as possible. And the reason I chose that major, and along with being pre-med, because those are just two totally different things, is I see how in the medical industry, how it's so important to be able to relate to the person that you are working with and how to get onto that level. And I see how you need to break down and not have as many barriers as we have now. So in order to break down that barrier, one of the main barriers in the medical industry is the language barrier that people have and not being able to understand people. So by learning Chinese and some Japanese and Korean, I can break down that language barrier and help people more.
So I will not monopolize this conversation because I mean it from my heart. It's incredible to hear your story. So I'm going to ask Reverend Tripline to share what's on his heart.
There's too much in my heart and in my mind that I could ask Sasha. I'm interested in hearing more about the Chinese culture piece. I went to Beijing 2 years ago, and I had maybe 2 or 3 words that I could say with some confidence, and I won't even try them now, because I don't want to butcher them in your presence. But before we get, full throttle into those more intricate conversations, I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for your presence and how you exemplify excellence in so many different ways. And I'd like to talk to you about your first year at University of Pennsylvania. When you did the Youth Spotlight, you were one of the last Youth Spotlights before the pandemic. And I remember that it was you and Brother Austin Henry. And you were in the cafe, and I think the next month is when we begin to close things down. But I would like to ask you, how has this first year gone? What are some of your learning experiences? Are you living in Philadelphia? Or are you still here in Montgomery County? How's that going?
Yeah, so the fall semester I was home, which was very nice. It was actually the first time I've been home with my sister, which was very fun. My sister and I went to different high schools, so we weren't around each other as much. We had totally different schedules. With her volleyball schedule, my soccer and volleyball schedule, we were just on different schedules. So it was very nice to have my sister around, which was exciting. And then my brother was also home. So it was a little crowded in the kitchen during cafeteria hours, which was always an interesting time, but we all got our food. It was pretty funny. But I was home for that, and I'm very grateful that I went to Germantown Academy. So grateful. The transition was not as hard as other people's. All my friends that I met through social media that I would talk to, talking about even study groups over Zoom. It was a big adjustment for a lot of people with the long papers and such, but I'm so grateful for Germantown Academy. Prepared me so well for college. The transition was not that hard. And then in January, I moved in at the University of Pennsylvania on 40th and Locust and in the Rodin College House, and it was the most exciting day ever. I was so excited. I did live there for all of spring semester. I got home about 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it was an interesting transition from going from home where there was always groceries in the refrigerator, and then I had to start walking to the cafeteria every time I wanted food and doing my own laundry, which I already did, but walking to the laundry room was a whole thing. But the transition was not hard at all, I would say.
That's excellent. And I used to live near 40th and Locust before I moved to Princeton. And I know you're enjoying that, because it's a very vibrant area. It's right at the corner of Center City and in between Center City and West Philly. University City is a great area. So that's incredible. How would you say, when you talk about, transitioning from high school to college was a seamless transition as much as it probably could have been? That's very good to hear. How would you say you've grown in kind of meeting your classmates? You said you had Zoom study groups. Now, I just started at Villanova, and that's probably been the hardest part for me because the classes have been smaller, taking PhD cohorts with groups that have already been together for a while. So as a new person, it was a struggle for me to connect. How have you connect socially in this space?
Yeah, so in the fall, the only way I really got to know anyone was through Zoom. And even I took Biology 101 in the fall, so that's about 300 kids at Penn. So there was really no meeting people. It was just sitting with your Zoom screen off, listening to the lectures all the time. It was really in the small classes, so in my Chinese class, in my Intro to Psychoanalysis class, in my math class. Those were the classes where I really got to meet people. In our little 4-person breakout rooms where you exchange social media handles and numbers where you got to meet people. So it was definitely hard in the fall. I didn't know a lot of people, but the only thing that really helped was knowing that everyone was doing the same exact thing. Everyone was in the exact same position socially. So that really helped. And then in the spring, just meeting people in my dorm, meeting people in the elevators. We still didn't have in-person classes. We have some next semester, I believe. They're telling us all, but I think it's going to be some. I think it's going to be below 50. I don't think my big chemistry lecture is going to be in person. That's going to be a lot of people. But I'm very excited to meet new people, getting out of my bubble. It was really just me, my roommate, and then the friends we made in our hall, and then, of course, different people again in the Zoom rooms where small classes. So, yeah.
You've mentioned about the wonderful opportunity you've had to spend some time with your sister and brother. Tell me what impact your parents have had in your life.
My parents have given me everything in the world. I am so grateful for my parents and everything they do for me. I would not be where I am today. I would not, Jack and Jill, Germantown Academy, where I live, my friends. My parents have given me the entire world to me. I would be so gone without them. Yes.
When you talk about that, tell me also how you see God in your journey.
Yes. So God and Bethlehem Baptist Church has grounded me in my move to college. At first, the first 2 weeks, meeting people was really hard. All I really knew was my roommate. It was kind of lonely the first 2 weeks, and I got homesick. Even though it was only 45 minutes down the street, I still got homesick. I was still in the city, a brand new environment. It's definitely not Bluebell, Pennsylvania. So I got a little lonely at first, and then Sunday would come around, and my dad would call me, turn on your Bethlehem Baptist Church. You're going to church. And of course I did, and that really made me feel at home in my own dorm room. God made me feel connected back to home.
So again, before I pass this mic over to Reverend Triplin, what would you say to students and to young people at this point in your life, whether they're here at Bethlehem or whether or not somebody else is listening, young people you meet, friends, peers, what would you say to them?
If there's one thing I would say, it would be stay connected to home. Like, know you have your home back home. A lot of kids go to college and they get very lonely. They get lost in the social aspect of it. They get lost. They miss their goals. They forget that it's school sometimes. I have some friends that forgot we were at school and just got lost in the social aspect of it and ended up losing themselves. And I would say just stay grounded.
I appreciate also your pausing for a few moments so that the words that you have just spoken have come out in such a powerful way. You're a very thought-provoking young lady. Reverend Triplin?
Yeah, as I listen to Sasha and as I think about the youth of this church, I'm just inspired by all that they're able to do and inspired by the many ways that God is using them in areas and in places in society that we would never be able to touch, you know. And so it's just great listening to you and hearing your perspective and seeing you kind of journey through these different seasons. More personally, I just want to ask, you know, when I was a student at Westchester, an undergrad, I was not an honors student like you, but I was an RA in an honors dorm, right? So I had many friends who were pre-med majors, and kind of being in that space really helped me to focus in on my studies and kind of take notes from driven students. You know, what does it take to excel at this level? So I want to kind of get a feel from you. What does your average work day look like in terms of surviving the course load at the University of Penn? And then once you open up your experience as a student, I'm kind of curious, what do you do to balance out, you know, life and all the demands of being in such a rigorous program?
Okay, so let me. Oh. Hello? Am I good? Okay. Okay, sorry about that. So an average day, my schedule this semester was actually very nice. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I only had 2 classes. On Fridays, I actually had a math quiz, and that was proctored as well. So it was a quiz and a class. But this semester, I took five courses. So I took Chinese, Calculus 2, Biology 102, an East Asian Languages and Civilizations class called Love in China, which was so fun. I loved my teacher, and one other class. Oh, biology lab.
Yeah, you're stressing me out.
I loved all my classes. They were so fun. My favorite class overall my favorite class I've taken at the University of Pennsylvania was probably my first semester class. I know everyone's expecting me to say an East Asian Languages class, which I loved, but I've taken 2 semesters of Chinese so far, and I'm so grateful for Germantown Academy again because I actually have been most review, so I haven't had very hard time in my Chinese classes thus far, but should be more challenging next semester. But my absolute favorite class was Intro to Psychoanalysis, which was very interesting. It was all about we just would read case studies and then apply Sigmund Freud's theories and then write papers about it. So it was very interesting. I loved my teacher. He lives in France. He was so fun. But an average day, I have about 2 to 3 classes a day. I like to schedule my classes in the morning because I don't like afternoon classes. Late afternoon classes were not fun. Unfortunately, my biology lab was in the afternoon. Biology lab was pretty fun. I had it on Thursday afternoons from 1 to 4. I really liked it, except for the fact that at one point they were like, we have to dissect in your dorms. And I was like, I'm not dissecting this pig in my dorm. I can't do that. And they actually let us go into the lab. So that was my only in-person experience. I got to dissect a pig, a sheep heart, a sheep eye, and a sheep...
Lord Jesus.
one more liver. That was all. But I really did enjoy that. Very fun. So my average day, I would wake up around 7:30, go to the gym, which is another way I've balanced out my work schedule and my life, really, just keeping me sane. So I'd get up around 7 o'clock and go to the gym at 7:30 to 8:30. Then I would come back. I would have class at 9. That would usually be Calculus 2. And then every day I have Chinese. Every language class at the University of Pennsylvania has class every day. So I would have 9 to 10 and then 10 to 11 and probably go to lunch around 12. Come back from lunch. I would usually go with my roommate or my friend that lived down the hall who was in my biology class that I met in biology lab. And we'd walk to the cafeteria. I was lucky enough the cafeteria was very close to my dorm. So that was a quick walk. We'd come back. We'd probably do some work.
That's incredible. I'll say that the only way I'm dissecting a pig is if I'm making dinner, but I give you kudos for taking on those challenges. That's incredible. Let me ask one quick follow-up question, and then I'll pass it to Pastor Kwan. As we think about your focus on East Asian languages and civilization, it kind of makes sense. You were introduced to that as a child, and it's incredible to think that you're at Penn and you're taking Mandarin and you feel like it's a review. That's incredible, right? Because I would be greatly intimidated. So I'm happy that you're prepared for that. But furthermore, when I think about medicine, what was really interesting for me when I hung around a lot of pre-med students in college was that in an undergraduate space, the focus isn't on patient care. You're not at that level yet. That's what med school's for. That's the next 4 years and then rotations, et cetera. How do you see yourself connecting to the prospect of studying medicine, and what is your passion? What is the reason that is something that you have pursued or beginning to pursue?
Yes. So I actually don't remember a time when someone didn't ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I didn't say doctor. I was automatically always like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a doctor, except for the brief phase where I wanted to be a pop star. But that was slight for me. But,
there's still time.
Yes. So I've always wanted to be a doctor. At first, it was really just like working in labs. Like I loved doing experiments in my kitchen. Like my parents would be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, I'm making new slime. I would just be mixing different potions, finding something to do. I've always loved science. I've always loved going to science class. My favorite class, absolutely. I struggle in math, if I'm being honest. My math is not my strongest subject at all. My strongest subject is Chinese. And that took me a while to understand how a lot of kids think, oh, she's going to be a doctor. She must be really good at science and math. That's not the case. That's my hardest subject. I have to work my butt off to get those done. But I love them. I love learning about biology. Dissecting the pig was so fun to me, seeing the anatomy of a pig. The brain was really interesting to me. And the eye. I really like the eye. But yeah, so at first it was always I want to be a doctor, but I don't know if I want to be with patients. And then I started babysitting more and being around kids, and I just love working with kids. Couldn't say it any differently. I currently am a Chinese teacher at Old City Day School, and I love working with kids. It's so fun. They just bring a whole new energy to the table.
So as you look over your journey, what obstacles have you encountered, and how did you overcome them?
I would have to say a big obstacle that I've ran into at the University of Pennsylvania specifically was the social aspect. Meeting new people and being around a whole new group of people when I went to Germantown Academy all my life, since 5 months old, straight there, knew everyone there. I could walk up there now and name at least 5 people I see as I walk in. So being in a whole new environment, something I've never done before. I've never been the new kid. I've never had to introduce myself to new people like that. So that was just a whole new experience for me, and I really struggled with that at the beginning. Just meeting new people, and specifically meeting people that I wanted to surround myself with the same goals, same aspirations, just the same energy. I didn't want to find myself in the wrong crowd, and that was really struggling. I was really struggling at the beginning with that. But I found my way. Positive energy attracts positive energy, so just got to put out what you want. So I figured that out quickly.
I think that's so important that you have already determined the kind of people you want to associate with, because you want people who have the same goals as opposed to somebody pulling you in other directions. I think that's commendable. Tell me also, this virtual learning, how's that been different than your sometimes being in the classroom with other students?
Yes, definitely has. If I didn't know any Chinese, I would be struggling very much in my Chinese class. Chinese is it's a very back and forth for learning, definitely. So just having one-on-ones with teachers and having them being able to hear your tone. Most of the time in Zoom classes, your mic is muted, so you're not really getting the feedback that you get in a regular Chinese class. Along with that, I'm a visual learner, very hands-on. So, for example, like biology with the dissections, I aced that test because I was hands-on with the pig. I knew the anatomy. It was easy for that. But the things that you had to see on the screen and the teacher was just skipping through because they thought, oh, they must have learned this in their other classes. It was difficult to understand at first. So I'm a very hands-on learner, I actually just need to write things down. Like I would just take things and just keep writing it. And it was an adjustment at first, especially because in high school you have like a test every 2 weeks. And for example, in my biology class, we had three tests in the final. So 4 tests and nothing else. That was your whole grade. And it was just a lot of pressure at first. And having it all online and sitting in your room was also a whole other concept to me. I was in my room most days by myself, just doing classes with my earbuds in because the walls are thin, and my suite mate could hear my Chinese teacher going over stories in different tones. So it was different. It was very different. But my high school, Germantown Academy, was actually one of the first to close. So I had about 2 months of online school before I went to college. So that was also just a whole other. I feel like I was better prepared than a lot of kids were.
Something else I want to ask you. This Sunday, we're honoring African-American legends, and Reverend Dr. Waller is going to be bringing the word at 4 o'clock. And there are some individuals in my own journey of life that I've come to admire, African-Americans, John Lewis, and others who have merely paved the way for so many. At this point in your life, is there anybody you look at other than family that you really see as making a contribution, particularly for minorities and others who have given so much of themselves?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the beginning of the question?
Is there someone that you kind of admire for their faith and their determination to make this world a better place, who fought for social justice, who have, carried out? I think of Dr. Frank Boston, that we're just becoming more aware of, who was the founder of the North Penn Hospital, which is Jefferson Abington now. But I think of Congressman John Lewis and other individuals who have paved the way, obviously Dr. Martin Luther King and others. So is there someone that you kind of look at as a example of what it means to strive for excellence and bring about social change? Give some thought to it if you.
If I'm being completely honest, the first person that comes to my mind is my dad. My dad, amazing leader in my life, has taught me everything I know. we used to have school talks on our way. We used to live in Collegeville, so we would drive all the way to Germantown Academy, and we would have leadership talks, just really reminding me who I was every single day. If you are in the car with me in the morning, you would hear my dad say, "What's your name? Remember where you come from?" And then say it proudly. Every single time, and you would have to repeat it back to him. It would be, at first, I was just like tired of it. It was first grader. I was like, I'm over this. And you eventually learn. And he would keep doing it until I started driving to school myself. And yeah, my dad is an amazing leader, and I look up to him greatly. And along with his social change, my dad and I have had amazing conversations, especially during the Black Lives Matter movement when it was very prevalent. My dad and I have had amazing conversations about what we can do, different protests we went to together with my little brother. When George Floyd was first murdered, we live in a predominantly white neighborhood in Blue Oak, so my dad actually decided this was the time to start speaking up. So my dad decided to put letters into the mailboxes of our neighbors, just explaining like how big of an issue this was for him and letting them know that there is a black man and a black family behind this man. So living here.
I think that's incredible that you can see your dad, and of course, your dad has stepped out on faith and has these daycares, and you're working there now, and he's also shared with you about social justice and has brought to you what it means to speak on behalf of others. Black Lives Matter, the mere fact that he took a step of faith and placed letters in mailboxes that also could be seen as a very dangerous situation because of so much racism in our country. And I think, again, that when we talk about legends, that there's no telling that ultimately you may be a legend at some point as you continue to move forward with all the gifts that you have, and just so amazed at how you have grounded yourself in God and family, and the fact you can refer to your dad as someone that you really admire and look up to. And unfortunately, many of our young African-American boys and girls do not have that same opportunity, so you're blessed. Reverend Tripline, as we hear this gifted young lady speak to us.
Yeah, I want to kind of continue where we are right here because, ironically, I lived in University City, Mantua, right before moving to Princeton, and now here I am in Montgomery County as the Lord has called me to be with this church. And we're kind of doing a reverse thing here, So you're back in Philly, I'm here, and you've been here, et cetera. So, and I live just maybe, you probably don't know this, about 2 minutes from your house. I live in Bluebell. So I'm really curious as we think about social justice, the ways in which living in Philadelphia has maybe changed your perspective on some things, or the challenges of being in the city. How has living there kind of changed that as well? We think about the violence that has been experienced in the inner city, as we think about the challenges of equity, and you're concerned about equity. You care about learning the language of patience that you might serve in different contexts, and so those things are relevant in your mind. So I'm really curious to hear how that has changed your perspective at all. Has it? Are you seeing things different being in Philadelphia for the first time? And what are some of the challenges that you see in that context that are relevant for our path forward?
Yeah. So being in Philadelphia is definitely a totally different environment from the small town of Germantown Academy in Bluebell, Pennsylvania. So at first, my sister goes to Spelman College, so surrounded by an HBCU, totally black environment. And at first, I was on the fence about it. Going to a PWI from Germantown Academy, where I was one of 4 black girls in my grade, it was an adjustment. It was an adjustment from University of Pennsylvania, but there was at times at Germantown Academy where you notice, it's just something you keep in the back of your mind, like, oh, I am one of 4. There's not a lot of us here, and I was worried about making African-American friends and being in an African-American environment. And at first I looked at Howard, I looked at Spelman, but automatically Penn has been my dream since my pop-up got his PhD there, and I've always loved it. So, yeah. Being in Philadelphia was an adjustment. I actually found myself having more African American friends than white friends at first, which was very interesting to me, because I was fully prepared for the same environment as Germantown Academy. But at the University of Pennsylvania, the Black community is very strong. They gravitate towards each other. They reach out to each other. Before I even got there, a couple of junior girls reached out to me. Hey, let me know when you're on campus. I live off campus. I'd love to show you around. Let me know. We can get lunch sometime. Just the African American community there is just very welcoming, which I wasn't expecting at first. Yeah, so that's definitely an adjustment. Let me think.
And here's a follow-up question to that. And we've got a fly that's that's attacking us right now. Let me give a follow-up question for that. You know, you talked about your father, you know, and leaving letters in the community here in Montgomery County, bringing awareness to issues of social justice. You know, how has that inspired you? I'm inspired just hearing that, because often when we're thinking about living in a suburban context, we think we're detached from issues of social justice, where number one, there are problems right here in this community as well. The issues that we face are not just far away or in the distance or just in the urban center, but they're also here. And when we close ourselves off from that awareness, we stifle our ability to grow as well. So how has that informed the way that you've engaged your present studies?
Yeah, so the Black Lives Matter movement really opened up my eyes, especially coming from Germantown Academy. I saw a lot of people being silent in it. It was very interesting because they were the people that sat next to me at lunch, and it was interesting to see how quiet their social media got when that turned around. So it opened my eyes personally to my social group, and again changed my perspective on who I want to surround myself with, who really cared about me at the end of the day. So that definitely changed my perspective on some people.
I speak at this point not so much as pastor, but as father. And what an honor it is for you to see your dad in that way. And I pray at some point that my sons or daughters could see me in the way you see your dad. I think that's incredible. And the fact, as Reverend Tripline has said, that the courage and faith it took, particularly in this community where we are certainly a minority and people look at us in different ways than in the city, and to take the time to place a letter in a mailbox, not knowing how people will respond, but making a statement is incredible. When you talk about your journey in terms of your global experience, what do you see in China that's different than in America?
I see Chinese culture and Asian culture as a totally different than American culture in my perspective. At first, it was just the language. It was learning a cool new language. I could show off to my friends, be able to speak new languages and things like that. But then when you start learning about the history and the different dynasties and just how things developed and how there's still so much culture behind everything there. I don't know if you've been to the Great Wall. That was just a life-changing experience for me, being able to walk up there, being just surrounded in that culture and how they're so rooted in their traditions is very interesting to me. I love learning about different traditions and how it's still so important. And I don't really see that in American culture. I don't see that many traditions behind things. And there's just always, when you look at it in Asian cultures, different things they do, different things that happen. There's always just a reason behind everything. And I love learning about the history behind it.
What do you do now? I listened to you earlier. You talked about going to the gym. Do you go to the gym every day?
Yes.
What do you do in terms of leisure and relaxation? What are your hobbies?
Yes. So At school, it was hanging out with friends. Always taking a night in, though. Taking a night in was really fun. There's a Ben and Jerry's right by my dorm, so I would go get some ice cream from Ben and Jerry's and take a night in. I lived in a wonderful dorm. There was a rooftop lounge where we'd have Friday movie nights, which were very fun. Very a good way to get out of my dorm, out of my little room, which was fun. And then always going out to dinner with friends, because in Philadelphia I love trying new restaurants, being around different. And taking the train into Center City was really fun. Currently, I really like, also in the city, I love taking walks. I love going down to the art museum, just walking down to the art museum, walking down to City Hall. I eventually found a few friends because my parents were like, let's not walk by ourselves for about 5 miles. So I would always find a few friends, and we'd always go, want to go to the art museum? That would be a fun little Saturday afternoon, which was really fun. Or going into Rittenhouse, which was always a good time. But currently, I came home, and I didn't realize how much alone time I liked until I went to college. I didn't realize how much I liked being alone until I was around people 24/7. I currently, I run a lot. Since the weather's so nice outside, I love running outside. It's a great way to clear my mind. And then I currently sew a lot. I like to sew and embroider things. I embroider bags, and I give them to my friends for our beach days that are coming up in June, so much we can go to the beach. So me and my friends all specialized beach bags, which are in progress, and I also like making necklaces.
So you do have hobbies.
Yes, I do. Let me think. During school, I club volleyball. I tried out for the club volleyball team. So we didn't have any matches because of the pandemic, but I'm looking forward to the next year when we got to travel. They're not as intense. Luckily, they're not as intense as the Penn sports themselves, but they're still very competitive and very fun.
So, again, it's really funny because I want to know what kind of music you like. Because somebody who's videoing this now saw me in my car, and I had on jazz, and I was just doing like this. And it's like, is that Pastor Quan? So that was me. I didn't realize I was being spied on. But tell me what kind of music you like.
I have a very large variety of music taste. I would say currently, I don't like listening to new music. I like knowing the words. I like being able to sing along. So listening to new music is just very hard. But I'm currently listening to a very new artist. You might know him as Aiden Pullian. He just released an album on Spotify and Apple Music. It's called 17, and I'm currently learning all the words to all the songs so I can sing along to his new music.
Well, I can't sing, so just say the words. Reverend can sing, so tell us your favorite music.
My favorite music. Pastor, that's a big question because I'm a musician and I listen to so many genres of music. I have to think about that one. I got to think about my favorite. But what I want to ask you, another one of my passions beyond music is food. I love food, and you brought up the Great Wall, and I have to say the Great Wall is not one long wall. There's different sections in different parts of China, and I can't remember the name of the part that I went to. It starts with an M, and the best food I've ever had was at the Great Wall. It was a small restaurant at 2 stories, and it was family style. The table would be spinning, and we all would be eating, at the table, and it was some of the best food I've ever experienced in my life. What is your favorite restaurant in Philadelphia, or what was a place that you go to regularly that you love in that area?
Yes. So my favorite restaurant, though. Ooh, that's hard.
One that you frequent a lot.
This is a commercial break, too, so you can say it.
I'm trying to get some clues. I'm trying to figure out what I've been missing out on in the last few years. Well, I'll give you one that I used to go to a lot. In that area where you lived, Han Dynasty was one that I went to often. So maybe that'll cue you too.
That's a good one. My friends and I would also go to Dim Sum in University City. That was an easy walk, an easy fun time. I like Mexican food. I actually love Mexican food. So Rosie's. Do you know Rosie's?
I haven't been to Rosie's.
Rosie's is in Center City. That was once or twice. and I think Distrito.
Distrito. I knew you were going to say Distrito. 40th and Chestnut.
Yes, that was a frequent one. Yes, everyone would go there. It was very good.
That's great. I just love talking about just different aspects of culture because it's important that we try things. You just never know what you might like, what you might gravitate towards. So it's great to see that you're trying new things, and I hope that all of our youth think about those sorts of experiences because many of our students go away to school but don't get a chance to experience the culture, and I think that's very important.
As you travel, as you explore different opportunities, tell me your perspective on politics.
You're getting grilled today.
My perspective on politics. So Germantown Academy is known for having a very split in our community with politics. It was kind of an off limits topic for most of high school for us. It started a lot of debates, and it became to the point where people were assuming and we couldn't wear certain things to school, and it was just election year was very hard for Germantown Academy. So politics have always been like a sore subject at Germantown Academy for me, especially because just knowing where people stood as an African American woman was just like, it put me in an awkward position. I have to sit next to you in English class next class, and you're over here debating in history about this, and it was very hard for different people. It was an adjustment. But yes, I'm Democratic. I stand strong in that, and
I think it's so important in terms of how we respond politically, whether you're Democrat or Republican or independent, but that we have to cast our vote. We have to make sure that we hold our politicians accountable and that we make social justice part of our agenda. We are a country that's divided. And I think that your commitment to change the world and be open to other cultures is another opportunity for you to make your voice heard, politically, socially, and every place else, academically. And I think it's important that young people do vote. People have given their lives to vote. And every vote does count. And whether it be in the primaries or a general election, that we have to stand up for those things that we believe in. And so, I pray again that as you move about, that's something else that, you will make your voice heard, particularly as an African-American woman. And, we still have barriers. And you're talking about, you're making a contribution. Unfortunately, there's still a divide between gender in our country, between race. And so only as we work together and make that part of our own journey to give back in some way. So, Reverend.
Yeah, we do have one question from a Linda Mead. You might recognize that name.
Hi, Nene.
Yeah, that's her grandmother. And she wants you to talk a moment about, oh, you're already laughing. No, it's nothing bad. She wants to talk about your campus involvements and organizations that you've been involved in now that you're at Penn. So can you open that up for us?
Yes. So I am currently on the social media and PR committee of Her Campus, which is an all-women's magazine on campus. So I'm in charge of the Instagram, actually. So I make a couple of Instagram posts a month, which is pretty fun. The club volleyball team, Black Student Union, Globe Med, which is a organization which talks about different medical industries across the world, and we talk about different issues throughout the world every other week. Slowed down at the end of the semester because our senior leaders got pretty busy. So, yeah. And then there is MAPS, which is, I always forget what it stands for, Minority Association of. It's a committee of undergraduate students that are minorities that are going to medicine, pre-med, minority student, something like that. Yeah,
that's great.
But that's about it for now. I hope to next semester. I hope to look more into student government, getting involved with the direct Penn community, and then I also recently got my fingerprint done for the Boys and Girls Club down in Philadelphia. So yes.
That's wonderful. And, being a part of the Villanova community as well, I'm involved in Africana Studies and other groups there that are focusing in on learning opportunities for the Black students, but also making sure they have a place. And you already kind of spoke to the challenges of being a Black person at a PWI, predominantly white institution. And it's encouraging to hear. And I see why your grandmother asked that question, because it's very important that when you're in that space, that you're surrounded by like-minded people, people that have the same experiences, so that you aren't alone in that experience. So that's fantastic.
I think another perspective is so important. Not only am I a father, but I'm a grandparent as well, I'm a grandfather. And so the fact that your grandmother raised that question, and they're so proud of you, both your mom, your grandmom, and your grandfather. And I said this I say this all the time. If I'd known a grandparent like this, I'd have been a grandparent first. It's just wonderful. And to see you blossoming and moving forward is just a blessing. So I'm sure that your grandparents are as proud as you as your parents. And I saw you smile when you heard that question coming from her. That's wonderful, yeah.
Yes, I love my Nini and Papa. Hi, Nini. My grandparents have also been there, a huge support system. I call them every single Sunday. Even if my Nini says I don't, I do call them every Sunday. My pop-up is the reason I went to Penn. So I look up to him. I look up to my Nini as well, but I look up to my pop-up too. He calls me. He always asks me, where'd you go today? Where'd you go on Locust? What did you see? Where are you again? What road?
What did he study at Penn?
He got his PhD there.
Okay.
Yes.
That's wonderful. As our hour just about concludes, what would be your final words that you would say to your parents, to your grandparents, to your friends, and again to the many young people that you will meet and those that you've already met?
To my parents and my grandparents, I would definitely say I'm very grateful for the position you guys have put me in my life. I know there's a lot of, I recognize how much privilege I have. I do. I understand how much privilege I have, and I talk about this. I talked about this with my dad the other day. I was listening to someone I was listening to a different motivational speaker on YouTube, because that's what I listen to when I work out, because the music doesn't really work sometimes. Sometimes I'm really tired. So I was listening to someone, and I brought it up to my dad, and I was like, I was born on second base, and I just have to recognize that privilege. And I'm very grateful to my grandparents for putting me in this position and putting me on second base. And to my siblings, I would have to say I love you guys very much. You guys are my best friends. You learn that very quickly in college. People are going to go around, try to be climbing the social ladder and stepping on you if they have to. So I am very grateful for my best friends back home, which I call a lot. Always texting my sister, always texting my brother. Hey, what's up? What are you doing? To my peers and to people going into college now, I would definitely say, as before, stay grounded. You just find your people. It's going to be hard at first. Like, it's going to take a minute. It is college. You're in a whole new environment. And just be careful. Find your people.
I'm sitting here with almost tears in my eyes because you said something that is so rich. We hear a lot about white privilege, but the mere fact that you can indicate that you have been privileged, and unfortunately some of our students are not aware of that you're blessed with parents and grandparents who have nurtured you and supported you and made sacrifices for you, and that you recognize that and you honor that. And there's so many of our students of all colors who do not have that same opportunity, and you have not forgotten where you've come from and how blessed you are. And that's a humble spirit. Never lose that. That's wonderful. And we say privilege doesn't mean that you think you're better than anybody, but you recognize how blessed you've been to be able to go to Germantown Academy, to be able to get this love and support that you received is your own awareness. And if you have never said anything else, that is something that I don't hear students talk about. You know, yes, we hear white privilege, and those are words that we hear regularly, but that many students, minority students, African American students, are privileged. that they have been surrounded by parents who care and who have made the kind of sacrifices, because there's some parents who would like to do it but can't do it, and some parents who could do it and don't do it. So in that sense, that is remarkable that you have already that in your heart. And I thank God for your spirit, for your love, for your home and your family, and for your desire to make a difference in this world. So thank you so much. I'm going to ask Reverend Tripline to close us out in prayer. And let me say this as well, that he is the first assistant pastor in this church in 134 years, but he has a heart for young people. And the conversation today is not something we have rehearsed, but that I sit next to him and know that he is deeply committed to make a difference with people of all walks of life, cross-culture. And so I thank God for him as well as yourself.
This has been an incredible hour, and Pastor, I'm grateful for you. And Sasha, you just don't know the ways that you have inspired us. As Pastor just pointed out, your talking about privilege is just so powerful, because I wrestled with that. I wrestled even as a Christian with the idea of grace. What does it mean for me to have grace and others don't have grace because they have not accepted that grace? But the reminder that we have been grace should empower us to not forget about others, but to make sure that because of our knowledge of how we've been blessed, that we are a blessing to everyone we have the power to. So thank you for preaching to us through your experience and not even knowing. Thank you for inspiring us through your words. Let us pray. Eternal God, we thank you for this impactful dialogue, this impactful hour of discussion and reflection and gratitude for the ways that you have blessed Sasha, you have blessed the Capers and Meade families, you have blessed this larger church with their presence and with their faithfulness to service and faithfulness to this present and next generation. God, I just thank you for everything that you have given to her. You have given to her great gifts. You have given to her great intellect and ability to be able to explore and to discover and have the sort of intellectual curiosity to experience things that many of us have never even thought to experience. But beyond this, God, you have given her such a humility and a sense of gratitude for the ways in which her father and mother and her grandparents and her larger communities, both here at Bethlehem and Germantown Academy and other places, how they have sown into her. We're thankful that she is so frequently referring back to the contributions of her family, of her school, and those who have inspired her along the way. And I pray that you will continue to allow her to have that spirit and to have that sort of gratitude. Give her everything she stands in need of as she continues in this journey. Wherever you take her, we know that we have many plans and we have many aspirations, but you are leading us and you are guiding us. We pray, God, for ears of sensitivity to be able to hear through many circumstances, through many experiences and many relationships, how you are moving us in our lives. Continue to move her, continue to bless Alexis and Tripp and the rest of this family and all of the youth of this church. We are so blessed that they are a part of us and we are a part of them. We give your name all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise as you have blessed us richly. In Christ's name we do pray. Amen.